Hey guys, I am back with Tony and I'm super excited to be again in a conscious chat with him. And today we're talking about the masculine and the feminine and what's going on, what's happening in our culture, what's happening to our culture. And Tony has a lot of ideas. I got to admit, this is going to be a little bit of a tricky topic for me because I'm a little bit on the fence about it. And you'll see that I'm going to go back and forth, but wait, and why, but I'm sure I reflect a lot of you out there. And Tony's just going to share his insights and what he's picking up, and we can do as we do. All right.
You're devil's
Tony,
advocate, aren't you?
a little bit.
It's good. It's good to challenge the beliefs and the viewpoints. So that's how we grow and learn, isn't it?
That is true. Yeah. That is true. But it's because like we're all raised with this idea of absolute freedom. You have freedom over yourself and how you express yourself and what you do with yourself and your life. And so even if it's challenging for you to accept in your own life, you're raised to think, whatever, right? Everybody has their freedom.
Yeah.
But I understand too that there's something behind what's going on in our culture now, because it's breaking everything apart that would make us stronger as people and as a society.
Yeah.
And it's also not accepting the natural energetic flow of things, the natural energy expression through humanity. It's trying to redirect that flow and convert it into something else. And I do see that. So that's why I'm saying I'm on the fence here.
Yeah.
Because on the one hand, do as you do, right?
But let's see if we can pull you off the fence then.
Yeah. So what's your, let's start off with a easy stuff.
Easy?
Yeah.
Is any of it easy?
Is any of it easy? But what's going on with there are so many topics we could start talking about, like the emasculation of men, the emasculation of women,
Yeah, I think, it's a good place to start, isn't it? What they're trying to do and what they've done over time is distort, as you say, both sexes' natural essence. The male being the protective role, the action taker, logic, reason, that kind of spirit, and the female being the nurturer, the loving essence, the creative essence. And through indoctrination, mind control, chemicals in the food supplies, estrogen, testosterone, what they're trying to do is invert both sexes. So men are more feminine and females are more masculine, and essentially that's what has happened. And what you have now, and what's been very interesting to observe, is men are frustrated with women, and women are frustrated with men.
Absolutely.
And so we're both frustrated with each other, and we don't know why. We can't understand it. We can't pinpoint it. Women are very frustrated that men aren't in their masculine, and we see that it's quite apparent with what's happening at the moment. There's tyrannies running wild on the planet, and there's a lot of men that are just not speaking out. They have children themselves, they know what's going on, but they're scared, and that really doesn't embody what the true masculine energy is, which is about courage, standing up for what's right, protecting the vulnerable in society. And so men have become very weak in that respect, and it's by so many different means. You look at how men are portrayed in movies, and this kind of bumbling, weak, begging up to the women and stuff like that.
It's always the goofball.
Yeah, the goofballs, and don't get me wrong, I'm there's a place for romance and things like that. But when you watch some of these movies, the men are very weak. We're told, we've got chaste women everywhere, and all that kind of stuff. And really, men need to be on their purpose. Men need to be on their purpose, on their mission in life. That needs to be their main kind of focus, right? That's what we're really here for. But yeah, we've really come away from that, and to the point where it's become a real problem in society, because this controlling force behind the puppet politicians, they know that if they take out the masculine energy out of society, of course, we're going to be a lot easier to control, right?
Yeah.
So because you haven't got that essence that would naturally stand up against tyranny. And what I'm seeing more and more, particularly in the alternative media and truth-seeking media, is that it's actually the women that are coming out and standing up, and they're making the live videos and stuff like this. And for me, it's a huge bugbear. I can't stand it. You know, I really find it deplorable. You know, as to how far away men have become from what we really should be, and the fact that, you know, women are having to do that role or take up that role in society of being the ones to stand up, which goes back to what I'm saying, where they're getting frustrated because, you know, they want to be in their feminine and they're having to be in their masculine. And, you know, both men and women have male and female energy, but we have an overriding dominant essence energetic within us, right? So it's not like as a male you know, like I can never be loving and nurturing and that kind of stuff, and you as a female, you can't, you know, stand up for what's right and stuff like that. But it's when it becomes you're over dominant in your masculine and I'd be over dominant in my feminine, that's when there is that distortion in what you say is the natural flow of energy. And so that's when you have a confused population, because when you have men not really understanding what their role is and females not really understanding what their role is, then you have a very distorted version of humanity. And then if you can confuse the sexes like that in terms of a controlling force, they're easy to control. So
they've taken the aggression, this drive for creativity, the creative drive, this aggression, this natural masculine expression, they've removed it from society in order to make us all more controllable. And they've upped the feminine energy, this passive, because we're supposed to be well, not supposed to be passive, no, don't get me wrong, listen towards the energy and how the energy flow is, right? So we're supposed to be more of that peaceful kind of flowy, consistent, long lasting, that kind of energy. And here we are having the feminine having to be that masculine energy, though, which makes them want to control as well. See, I'm having multiple thoughts on multiple different levels because it's so insidious how this whole thing is run, because it hits us on so many levels simultaneously that we can't even, we're lost in it. They're hitting us on identity, how we identify ourselves. They're hitting us on personal relationships, how in relationships, how we relate to each other. So it's okay for me to control you, and if we were in a relationship, because I'm the feminine and I need to express my feminine energy, and for that I need to limit your masculine energy, and that whole thing starts. And it's gotten to a point where I see, guys, I have so much I want to say, but I'm tiptoeing around because I'm trying to be politically correct. So I've got to get that out of me and just say it. But we are a mess. We're fucked up.
It's okay to admit that, because, you know, unless we look at things for how they are, we're not going to be able to change them. And it's very important that we do that. And look at a spade as a spade and say, this is fucked up, as you say. And you know, so. But yeah, I mean, they've done the same to the females as well, in terms of, you know, masculine. We've had two waves of feminism now, and of course, feminism was created to, well, not only tax the rest of the population, but they wanted to destroy the family unit. You know, if you destroy the family unit, again, the society as a whole becomes weak. And I'm not sitting here suggesting that women should be chained to the kitchen or anything like that, but there is that natural symbiotic relationship between men and women, where, you know, men are kind of like the bread that they go out and they're the hunter-gatherers. You know, we were always seen as the hunter-gatherers.
So what you're saying basically is, through this masculinization of the feminine, it's kind of without giving men an alternate purpose, right? Just leaving them dangling, saying, okay, we've taken that purpose away from you, we've given it to women, and men are now saying, okay, so what are we here for? Fine, we'll be the eternal son. That's great, you know, take care of me.
Well, you know, so women have become very career driven, very, you know, so, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it's been propagated to a point whereby it's become the overriding importance in their lives.
Have become better men instead of becoming better women, and taking that female energy to the next level. They've tried to just become better men.
Yeah, absolutely. So you know, and now you have, God, it goes into so many dynamics. I mean, you know, women have been, I'm not saying that women have not been demonized and bastardized down the years through eons. I mean, of course, there has been that going on. So there was kind of a need for some kind of equilibrium there, so to speak. But what it's become now is it's got to the point where, you know, there are some females out there that, see, what they want to do is they're constantly trying to cause division, right? So they'll divide black versus white, gay versus straight, rich versus poor, England versus France, divide, because as long as we're divided, they can control us. What they've done now with modern day feminism is they've created the biggest divide of all, which is between men and women. And so you have this extreme version of feminism right now, which really is extreme. I don't, you know, if you actually look, it's actually men hating, right? And I've seen it. And, you know, there are, of course, some men out there that are not very pleasant, but there are also some females out there that are very pleasant as well. And, you know, when you look at a lot of how females have, you know, been kind of used throughout history and that kind of stuff, a lot of that is through this cult, which is very dark anyway, you know. So tarring all men with the same brush and tarring all females with the same brush is only playing into the divide and rule dynamic that they want people to buy into. Because if you can create a division between the two genders, where, I mean, you're seeing it with men now as well. They've created, there's something called MTGOW or something, men that go their own way.
Okay.
Which is quite interesting when you look at it. So this is like the kind of flip side to this extreme feminism that we're seeing, this man hating. It's now, and I'm sure this is being indoctrinated or coming from the cult somewhere, but now you have these group of men online that basically they say they're fed up with females and the way that modern day females are behaving. So they're going to go their own way and basically just do what they need to do, get what they need to get from females, and not, you know, not really go any deeper with them than that. So you have these both real extreme movements now where men are actually hating on women and women are actually hating on men.
Yes.
The classic divide and conquer.
Absolutely.
And so when people speak about division and divide and conquer, they often leave out this biggest one of all, which is between men and women. So
it's such a taboo topic because I got into a little bit of a conversation with someone in your timeline the other day because he was antagonizing someone who posted something on your timeline. And he started getting really crass with his answer, but he was pointing to something that a lot of women, I feel, don't want to acknowledge, like the toxic femininity.
Oh yeah.
The sexual desires that are underneath women's decision making just as much as underneath men's.
Yeah.
The roles that women in fiction they'll gravitate towards, for example, 50 Shades, that whole thing.
Yeah.
And then in real life, oh my God, you're such an abuser. It's like men are left with no solid ground to stand on. Like, what do you want from me? What role am I supposed to play now so that you're satisfied? There's
a lot of hypocrisy. Probably on both sides, but it does feel like sometimes where as a man or as men, we kind of can't say anything because we get like beaten down in terms of if we have an opinion about women. So I don't know, where can you go with this? Yeah, like you say, sexual ideas or thoughts, or certain things that women can say to men, and we're just supposed to take it. Whereas if we say it to a woman, we're like, well, you can't say that, and so there is hypocrisy on both sides there.
I was watching this video. I don't know if you guys watch PRXO. Go check out his channel. And when he was 17 or 18, around there, this older lady fell in love with him. She must have been mid-30s at the time. And so he had a gas with it, he had fun with it. And just after a couple of weeks, it was over. I mean, the kid's 17, right? So, but she just latched onto him, became totally obsessed. They did this interview together where she explained her love for him. And afterwards, because he broke it off with her, he got a lot of hate mail. How could he treat her like that? How could he use her like that and abuse her like that? And he was like, guys, like, just reverse this whole scenario and look at a 17-year-old girl with a mid-30-year-old man. And if he was saying those things to her, what would have happened? And it was so true. And it was so, all of a sudden, boom, like how we're all being manipulated through these images that we're being fed, these but men suffer abuse at the hands of women just as much.
Absolutely.
I was watching on Facebook here in Mexico, and it was posted. This guy was crying. He'd called the police. His wife had been beating him out of the house, and that can't be okay either. It cannot. So seeing men only as agitators, and I know that a lot of people will say yes, but they're the dominant energy in society. It's the white male, right? Pale male and stale, as they say, right?
I don't even know if that's true anymore, though. I don't know if they are.
I don't know if that's true.
But maybe they were. But right now,
it was true. But in 2020, if you're actually looking around, is it true? And we're still basing all our assumptions from the past, right? So it's a really interesting dynamic that's being fed to us. And another thing I did was I watched this, I took this course on conscious uncoupling. You guys have to check it out. And the course leader, she talked about how we're living in a society right now where we're being taught things that are no longer applicable. Like, for example, we're living in a society that's living with ideas and concepts that come from the Middle Ages, like romanticism, live happily ever after, Prince on a white horse, princess programming, exactly. And how in the Middle Ages it was needed for a certain purpose, right? And even back then the marriages were mostly based on economy and how the families would work together and what it would bring. But nowadays the average person is going to have 4 or 5 long-term important relationships in their life. That's just the average, right? And for them to then believe in one person and happily ever after is setting them up for this feeling of failure, this feeling of loss and doubt in self and capability of relationship. And so we need to change our culture. So we are going through this cultural revolution right now, but somebody is dictating how this revolution is supposed to go and how it's supposed to turn out. But naturally, we're supposed to develop our own new concepts based on what the reality that we're living in, of what ideal we'll want to ideally move towards. And they've taken that away from us. And they've done it on such a masterfully.
Well, as always, everything they do is genius. And they know full well that if you can distort that dynamic, that natural ebb and flow that men and women have always had, and they've been doing it over decades. When you look at the first wave of feminism, it was actually funded by the Rockefellers. I think the Rockefellers or the Rothschilds, one of the two.
That says everything.
And now you look at how the family unit has been broken up. You look at how you have both the husband and wife out at work all day, and of course, who has control over the child? The state, right? So the state has more and more say over the child, more and more dictating what the child can do. I mean, I've heard it before in the UK now that you have to write a letter if you want to take your child out of school in term time, and even heard reports that at airports, if the child's supposed to be in school, they can stop them from flying or stuff like that. So you can see, you know, the state, it wants to break up the family unit. It wants that division. I mean, again, everything they do, it always has, from their point of view, 3 or 4 different benefits. But they want control of the children are the next generation. So they don't want children coming home early, spending time with mum, and mum giving them proper education. No. They want mum busy. They want mum at work. Yeah, they want mum at work, getting home at 7 o'clock in the evening, drinking wine, which is what the thing is, the done thing is in modern society. You know, women working really hard, and then sort of the child is left to its own devices online, and so it's just at the mercy of the state and indoctrination and programming and stuff like that. But then you have toxic femininity and toxic masculinity. Toxic femininity is something that feminists don't want to talk about.
No, they don't. I know they don't.
You know, you've had all this Sex in the City program into being taught to be, you know, promiscuous, and now you see you go on Instagram now, you might as well go on a porn site, right? And then you have these women that have got an OnlyFans account where they, so you've got women complaining that men are luring after them and sending them dick pictures and all this. And I'm not excusing this, by the way. This is bad behavior on the part of men. Right. But what I'm saying is it works both ways, right? Yeah. So, you know, you have all these OnlyFans accounts now, and it's like, what the fuck, you know? So women have become, again, through media manipulation and indoctrination, they've become, well, the whole of society has become more sexualized. I mean, you've only got to drive around, there's billboards of naked women and stuff like that, and so, you know, this has been drip fed into them over time, and so they, you know, is it because of disposable income? Because I know that marketing targets a certain age group in particular. What, the OnlyFans? They go the billboards with the naked women, because I mean that triggers immediately males in a certain age range, right? Yeah, well, and a certain income bracket. Yeah, well, men are visual creatures. You know, women are emotional. So, you know, they know that, and so they will. Yeah, so all that stuff is used, and so the whole of society has just been more and more sexualized. I mean, look at what they're teaching kids in schools now. I did a video this morning on my Facebook. They're teaching kids how to masturbate. They're, you know, we'll get into it in a minute with transgenderism. They're having drag queens turn up and confusing them over their sexes and stuff like that. And so, you know, some of the toys in the stores and Disney subliminals. I mean, God, don't get me started on that. There's YouTube videos out there with, you know, penises and stuff, and you know, all this kind of subliminal messages. And people don't even believe it, but one of the VPs of Disney is in jail right now for pedophilia. He's serving a 7-year sentence. Yeah, I think so. And Walt Disney was a Freemason, so that tells you what you need to know about Disney. And so kids are being groomed. Like, it sounds horrible, but they're being groomed. This is why I was saying this morning, like, why are we sending children to school when we know this? You know, we know that they're being sexualized. We know that they're being taught about transgender. We know that they're it's like people don't understand because they think, oh, I'd see it and I'd recognize it. I'm like, no, you don't know how insidious this is, right? Like they put vanilla in baby food. Every baby food that you buy, everything has vanilla in it. What it does is it trains the kids from day one that vanilla is safe. Vanilla is home. Vanilla is comfort. And so when you walk into a store and you smell the vanilla, you're more open to purchasing, to buying, so when you walk into like big department stores, they're very, some of them use, what do you call it? Not perfumes, but they are not aromatherapy, but something along those lines. But they use it to incite people to buy. And it's barely traceable, but your system still registers it. You still smell it. And it's incredible how insidious they are. So when they're having all this subliminal messaging in movies, kids movies, it's training them to look for pornography as relaxation, for example. Oh my God, don't even get me started. I've written a book on pornography, Plugged Into Porn it's called, for anyone that, any men or even women that want to read it, and the damage that watching porn does to men, you know, it destroys their view of women. You know, it drains their life force energy when when you're constantly masturbating and stuff. And again, it kind of sexualizes, or it trains them to think that women are sexual objects, and so women become objectified, and then because they're being promoted to become overtly more sexual with Instagram and OnlyFans and stuff like that. So you have the men that are watching porn that are already seeing women as objects, and then the women are playing into that with the toxic femininity, with with all of that stuff. So porn's a huge issue for men, well, for both sexes really. But I mean, isn't it interesting how you have to pay for everything nowadays, but you don't have to pay for porn?
And it's easily available for any age group. They can monitor people on Facebook, but they can't monitor the porn on the internet. Like, seriously.
So that tells you all you need to know about what they're trying to push. So yeah, it's a very, I mean, when you look into the chemicals as well, you know, when you're looking at the men, you're looking at estrogen being added to the food, to the alcohol. So you're seeing all these men down pubs, you know, acting like men. Well, actually they're being feminized because they're drinking estrogen, and obviously the woman is consuming more estrogen than normal. And so what they've actually said is that a woman can carry a baby in the womb, and there's so much estrogen now that if it's a boy, it can start turning feminine even in the womb. And so what's happening is you're seeing more and more feminine boys being born through the...
But aren't those crystal children, Tony?
Well, the new age will have you believe that. I mean, I do believe there is something in that kind of theory, but I mean, that's another subject. But yeah, I mean, they're being chemically altered and before they even get out the womb, and you know, that's without all the stuff that's in the food, the McDonald's, all that kind of stuff. And then women are also consuming a lot more testosterone and stuff like that. So,
and also women are going earlier into menopause than before. It's like they're really, before I had friends back in school where their parents, their mom had them accident, you know, those happy accidents when the mom's like 54 and not expecting anything anymore. And nowadays, though, it's like I have so many friends and people that have gone into early menopause already, mid 30s, early 40s. And it's all probably due to environmental factors. So they're really going at it
they've done a job on us. You know, they really have.
Because I mean, you're in menopause as a woman, mid 30s. Menopause is supposed to be a time of wisening, of ripening, of you know, where your wisdom is really coming through. What, in your mid 30s? That's where you're in the middle of your experiential phase, where you're having all those experiences and are meant to have those experiences. And so then you have 50 years left of life in menopause. Like that's
you women have definitely got it tough. And that's without all the moon stuff that we were talking about in the last podcast, you know, all the interference with the moon, with your emotions, pulling them around and stuff. And it must be quite difficult being a woman. I'm glad I'm a man.
But it's like you said though too, but the entire engagement between male and female, that's all changed too. Like I've seen, you were talking about Instagram and porn, and I was thinking about Tinder and how I have friends who went on Tinder, and they're saying, Karleen, I had never been on Tinder, but they're like, you know, the guys are saying right away, come over to my place, you want to hook up at my place, and if you say no, it's like you're gone. Like there's no even chance anymore nowadays to like date, to court each other, be friends first, build a basis, you know, see if you have shared, like it's all just want to fuck.
Well, like, it's also when you look at the language as well being used, Tinder. You know, what's Tinder? It's like the burning. The burning of what? Love, maybe.
Energy.
So that's probably no accident that yeah, it's a fucking mess. It's a fucking mess. So yeah, I mean, part of the solution is understanding that this is going on, and we have to remind ourselves of what our true nature is, and not through understanding or understanding what our true nature is as a male or female, then we can see where the deception lies. And so when we can see where the deception lies, we're less likely to get hoodwinked by it and buy into it all. It's very important, and there's not enough people speaking about it.
No.
It's scary. It's scary. I find it's
such
scary.
a taboo topic, because it's like they've totally, if you're not on track with this opinion that everything goes and everything's okay and you're not allowed to say anything, then you're wrong, you're evil, you're cruel, you're dumb,
yeah, well, it's a big trigger for people, isn't it? Because I don't know why, because we should just, as a conscious, well, I wouldn't say we are a conscious society yet, but if we're moving in that direction, then we should all be able to just sit down and say, hey, look, this is not right. Like, we should be able to do that, but we're getting triggered, and everyone's kind of pointing and blaming each other. Well, men have done this for years, and we've been shitty for years, and I for sure. And but also
2 wrongs don't make a right.
Yeah, 2 wrongs don't make a right. But painting everyone with the same brush, just all it does is it buys into the divide and conquer rhetoric that they want people in. Because if you've got men and women hating each other, then it's game over. And these movements are growing. There's this new wave of extreme feminism, or even I refer to it as men hating. Some of the stuff I've seen out there, it's like, wow, that's just the agenda.
I had a good friend. He's Native American. I have a good friend. He's Native American, and he's got his hair all the way down to his butt. Then it's beautiful, and he always braids it. Has his Native American braid. I have never in my life, like, if men would try to do what women did to him just to get to his hair, to touch his hair. Like, I remember we were walking, and someone grabbed his hair from behind, because she was like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. First of all, you do not touch other people's hair unless, like, you do not.
Can you imagine if a man done that to a woman?
And my friend didn't notice, and he was walking because his braid was so long, right? So he's walking, all of a sudden his head snaps back because she's holding it. And we were like, it's so...
Yeah.
I'm not trying to demonize women, but I want women to wake up, and I want them to see exactly what they're doing to themselves, to their relationships, to each other. And I really want them to take note of their own power, because we have power. We're not powerless. And we exert power in certain ways as well. And this unconscious exertion of power by trying to, from behind the scenes, dictate and control where energy goes and how it flows and what is expressed. I mean, okay, let me get to the basis of my thought, okay? When I was little, my mom told me that women were the ones that ruled the world. And I was like the same thing, like, no, look, Mom. And she's like, no, women rule the world. Understand, my mom was a teacher, and she was into anthropology, and she studied societies and so on and so forth. And she said that women were the ones that created societies, and that societies were the ones that, created people, and whatever women accepted is what was accepted in society. So I was like, nah, can't be. And she was like, really? Have a look. So I had a look, and I have to say she's right. It's like everything that women accept, they teach in the families, they perpetrate in the families, they create in the families, and we have to take responsibility for that. We have to take responsibility for what we allow to continue, and not in a way that we become the bigger aggressor and the stronger male, but that we say, okay, we're going to shift our focus on what we are perpetrating, on what we are continuing in society. One of the examples I want to name is a little known fact in history, and you can research this yourself, is, for example, when white men went out and colonized the world. They went out to Asia, as we know, South Africa, as we know, South America and Latin America, as we know as well. And what happened during those days was that these men, because they were unlikely to go home, they would take wives of the indigenous people in the areas that they found them in, wherever they were. The children that they had were legitimized. They had inheritances. They had names, last names. They were baptized by the church. Everything was fine. There's even a museum here in Mexico City, which is dedicated to the various mixes of people that was going on in the 1600s, because people in Spain couldn't imagine what was going on over here in this decadent new world. So they painted little pictures of the different couples, indigenous and black, black and white, indigenous and white, and so on and so forth, and the family structures that they built, and sent it home to Spain. A similar thing happened in South Africa, and a similar thing also happened in India. And after things got a little bit established in each country, guess who started showing up? Because they wanted to see where the men were going and what they were doing and what was going on. And what did the women bring with them? Ideas of society, of societal structures. And this is not race-based. This is everywhere, 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 everywhere. And for example, if you're looking at FGM, female genital mutilation, is it the men that are saying it's time to cut the girl? Is it the dads that are stepping up, or the grandfathers? Not really. It's grandma, it's auntie, it's mom that's saying, based on their culture, it's now time to do this and have this done. So we as women have to sit and have a long, hard look at ourselves and how we contribute to society, what we perpetrate. And this princess role and this eternal victim role, it's got to end at some point, because we're all contributors. And another thing, they did an example in a test in Germany, because they said neo-Nazism that was in Germany at the time. I think when they ran this on German TV, it was early 2000s. And neo-Nazism at the time was, you know, as it is in Germany, it goes through waves up and down. And they were saying that it's because of the women supporting the men that it's more than a bar talk, right? And they ran some experiments, and it actually came out, long story short, that yes, men were doing this in part because they were receiving the support from their girlfriends and women, moms. And not to take blame away from men, because they're adults and they have absolute responsibility over every decision that they make. But these are unconscious processes within ourselves that we need to become aware of to understand this whole energetic dynamic of why we decide what we decide and what we do, right? Or what influences that. So I think like there's such, and these people know about this and they use it. And we fall into those traps, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think probably both sexes feel a little bit unappreciated. You know, women are the creators here. You know, they birth life, and you know, things like porn takes that idea away from men, right? But then men are also, I mean, you look around, most things that have been built by men and designed by men, a lot of them, you know. And so men are also worthy and great. And I think we've got to stop this kind of this hating on each other almost, which is it's become like that now, this real frustration, and just take a step back and say, hang on a minute, who benefits from this? And when we look at that question, we see that the answer is the people that want to control, dominate, and essentially enslave us. So like any kind of division, we have to look at that question of who benefits, and wise up to it, really, and really start getting in touch with our true nature. And like I say, it's not like men have got to go out beating their chests and, you know, like.
What would you say is masculine from your masculine viewpoint?
Masculine energy is, as I said before, it's looking at society and standing up for the people that are vulnerable, the women, the children. It's also about the courage to do that. It's about taking action, and it's just really just that whole providing, you know, that kind of role. And we've just come so far away from that. Most men that I know, friends, all they care about is who's going to win the game on a Saturday afternoon. And if men could use that passion that they have for sport and for football, which is why one of the reasons we have sport and football and things like that, because they know the men need to channel their aggression and their, you know, their frustrations, right? Because if there wasn't any of that, then they may do that to the government, right? Which is what they don't want. So better do it to Manchester United or Arsenal or whatever. And so yeah, the things that we care about, we've come away. The things that we should care about, we've come away from. So men really just their attention is on the wrong thing. And I see, because I still, you know, myself.
Do you think it has to do with initiatory rites? Because while you're saying that with the soccer, all of a sudden I saw, you know, all these men going, wow, and I was thinking, all of a sudden my mind jumped to initiations, like puberty rites of puberty. And in indigenous cultures, women and men, they don't seem to have all these issues. And they have, you know, puberty rites, and they're a new identity within the collective, the community that they're in is given to them. So with this identity comes a purpose as well within that collective. Do you think that's missing in our society, and that's part of why everybody's kind of drifting?
If you lose your identity, you lose your purpose, because you don't know what your role, you don't know kind of where you're going, right? You don't know how you're supposed to behave or anything like that. So because we've become disconnected from our natural essence, we're confused. And when you're confused, you don't really know where you should be going. And so, yeah, for sure, that's definitely an issue.
And another friend of mine talked about also the circumcision in the US especially, and how that affects men.
Yeah, I mean, God, it's basically, I mean, it's fucked up, isn't it? I mean,
there's so much, like, this topic is so huge. I think we could do a series.
Yeah, we're going really into some deep rabbit holes. Yeah, I you know, it's, to me, it seems like some kind of satanic ritual. I think it is. You know, obviously they'll promote it as it being somehow beneficial, cleaner, I think they say, for the men if you're circumcised. But there's actually nerve endings in that foreskin that makes sex a lot less pleasurable for men. When you take that away, there's some kind of energetic thing around it as well.
Yeah, that's what he said. It's harder for them to bond with the women that they're with.
They kind of feel disconnected.
But Sandra Bullock needs it for her skin. Those baby foreskins.
She did what?
You didn't see that?
No.
Oh my God. She was talking with Ellen, I think, right? Ellen DeGeneres, you guys type it in the chat. And Ellen was saying to her how beautiful her skin was. I'll post a link to the video because it's on YouTube underneath if you guys haven't seen it. And she said that it's some kind of lotion that's been made with baby foreskins of children in Asia.
Well, that doesn't surprise me. But yeah, I mean, there's something very nefarious symbolically going on with that. And, you know, of course, they package these things up for parents to think that they're something beneficial, as they do with the poison darts, I won't say it. You know, they're all packaged up to, you know, it's a good thing. And the same goes for that. But yeah, I definitely feel that, you know, that process makes it a lot harder for men to bond with women. And of course, you know, when the bond with men and women breaks, it's more division, right? So again, there's multiple reasons for everything that's popular. Most things that are popular comes from the cult. So anything that gets popular very quickly needs to be scrutinized and probably need to run the other way from.
And I mean, they have so much power in media. Like, why don't they run more stuff that makes us more appreciative of each other instead of critical of each other?
Of course,
right?
Yeah.
Like, why aren't we appreciative of the male or masculine? Which is, I don't even want to say it's a part of us too. Right? It's like, I'm not a tree, but I'm appreciative of a tree. A tree is a part of my, you know what I mean? And so why can't we be appreciative of each other and the separate roles that we're meant to take in life? You know, that we're meant to take in life. And we went to a cenote here in nearby Tulum, and the guy that was taking us, he's deeply steeped in Mayan mythology and lore, and he was being trained, he's Mayan himself, and so he was being trained in Mayan shamanism, and he was told me that in olden days, women weren't allowed into the cenotes, especially the ones that went underground. These were only for shamans, medicine men, only when they were bringing sacrifices, and sacrifices wasn't always to effect a change. Yeah, like that's another thing in Western society is we immediately associate sacrifice with some kind of a please make a change in my life, like some kind of benefit for self. And it wasn't about that back then. It was just about connection and appreciation. That's it. I appreciate. So all the dark and all the light beings equally were appreciated. Didn't matter. We respected the dark, didn't touch them, and acknowledged the light, but we didn't want them to change anything for us. And he said that women and children weren't allowed into the cenotes because women and children represented life, life forces, the forces of life and life bringer. But the male initiatory rite was to encounter death, right? And so women went through an initiatory rite during their puberty, and there's some kind of female massage that Native Americans, I experienced it, learned about it, and when I was living with Navajos. But there's another one, like each section of their life, childbirthing is another initiatory rite, and that's a whole other topic of what's going on today with the mouth mask and everything.
My God, yeah.
But for men, it was this encounter of the hunt and the encounter with death, and this is what would make them male.
Yes.
And I feel that's what's also being taken away in society because, no offense, but you guys are being coddled to no end, man.
Yeah, exactly. You know, we need to feel a bit of danger, right?
Yes.
Exactly, and. But we run away like men now run away from it. They're scared, you know. It's just it annoys me talking about it so much because, you know, we so need to stand up right now, really do. And you know, this domain that we're in, it's not quote unquote safe. You know, this is part of the experience. To, you know, you could walk out of here tomorrow and get hit by a car. You can't run away from. You can't live your life scared of things that might not happen. Danger is very real, but, you know, fear disables you. And you see so many people, not just men, just living their lives in total fear, hiding away, scared to speak out, scared to say anything, living half lives. And I don't know about you, I'd rather speak out, live perhaps a shorter life and you know, express my true self. But in actual fact, I think that the more you live in line with your truth, speak out, you know, maybe you go to these dangerous places and you go through, I think you're more protected. I honestly think you're more protected. To me, that's natural law, spiritual law. For my own personal life, and we're talking about this bungalow that came up, it's like that came up out of nowhere. And I just see it as like, I need to be kept safe, you know. And I feel like when you're doing what you're supposed to do and you're speaking your truth and you're in line with truth and your purpose, then you get all this spiritual support around you anyway. The people that are going to suffer, and I see this with my own friends, these men that have spent years with their own children that have been saying, you know, well done, Tony, I really like what you do, and there's nothing from them. They're the ones that are probably going to suffer. I'm going to be all right.
Yeah.
And so, you know, there's this idea that if we try and avoid everything, then we're going to become safe. My worst fear is living a safe life. I don't want to get to the end of my life and look back with should haves, could haves, I should have spoken out. You know, I knew this, I don't want any of that. That scares me. That's my real fear. But I don't think many men, at least, think that way. They want to, as you say, many men are mollycoddled and deballed, basically, disconnected. And the problem is society suffers, you know, and that's what we're seeing right now.
But even in the male and female, I'll never forget this sentence that someone said to me, and I've passed it on so many times, was that the sperm always chases the egg, right? So, I mean, even in society where in male-female relationships, you know, it's like men don't have to do anything anymore. They just sit on their bar stool, and eventually some chick is going to hit on them.
Yeah.
And eventually some,
Well,
without making an effort, they just stumble into it.
I think a lot of men would disagree with you on
really?
that, actually. Yeah.
I don't know, man.
I think that's a whole other podcast.
Really?
Yeah, like modern day dating and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the way it looks from the outside, especially when you're talking with women, it's like women are putting in so much effort, and actually it should be the other way around, right? And guys are the ones that are closing the doors, being emotionally unavailable, standing off, walking away, disconnecting. And then we're dealing with
it's all a mess, what we've become, really, which is why it's so important to do these podcasts. I mean, we've broached some really deep topics, right? So it's good. We have to see the agenda for what it is, and remember who we are.
What is the agenda? What do you see the agenda as? Like,
what, in terms of this?
In terms of this whole everything, this pile of issues between male and female, and even knowing what male and female is.
Well, the bottom line is they want the bottom line to the agenda is, if you can confuse the population and distort the sexes, then you're much easier to control them. Also, there's a perverted agenda as well, where we're seeing paedophilia almost become more accepting. That's getting lumped in with the gay agenda, and not the gay agenda, the what's it called, pride, and the transgender. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to shoehorn in paedophilia in these other kind of distorted movements that have been created, because transgenderism is not something that's okay. How many people did you know at school when you were young that were transgender?
0.
Me too. And when you ask that question to most people, they will say 0.
And I went to school in Canada, the US, and Germany.
Yeah, maybe 1. You might hear someone say 0, maybe 1.
Yeah.
Now it's
everyone,
right? Not everyone, but a lot. Why is that? It's because kids are going to school. They're being taught that there's no difference. They're being taught that there's over, I think, 80 different genders. You can wake up now in the morning and identify as a penguin if you want. And what that is doing is confusing children that were not confused before. So now they're coming home, they're confused. They're being told that it's okay to dress as a male if they're a female. And so it's and there's all this there's this underlying perversion with it as well, because a lot of these cult members are transgender and they like all this stuff. I think Satan himself is a hermaphrodite, right? So it's also a representation on a cult level, but very much it's to do with confusing children.
Is it turning God's order upside down? I mean, that's kind of satanic.
Yeah, it's inverting. There's these natural essences, natural roles that we play, and like I said, I can have some feminine, you can have some masculine, but your overriding energy is feminine. My overriding energy is masculine, and so when you're confusing children and you're telling little boys it's all right to be a little girl, and little girls that it's all right to be a little boy. And then the other dynamic this plays into is because a lot of children now are coming from broken homes, they're suffering abuse, toxic parenting, unconscious parenting. They're looking for something they can feel part of, right? And so what they're going to gravitate to, transgenderism. They'll feel at home in transgenderism. They'll be accepted there. They're not accepted at home. They're not accepted with mum or dad or a single parent that's drinking heavily to get over the loss of the partner that left them. Maybe they're getting beaten around a bit. So they're going to school, and now there's this movement where, we accept everyone. So there's this very sinister dynamic where it hooks children in that are damaged, just like we see with the New Age, where damaged people gravitate towards it, where they feel at home, where they feel accepted, they'll feel part of something. And so these transgender kids are often kids that have suffered a lot of trauma and abuse and stuff like this. So there's so many dynamics at play as to why they're doing this, but the overriding one is to confuse the genders to make us easier to control. And if you look at movies, you know, they predict this. Black Mirror, there's a lot of references to transgenderism, and that's what they want. They want a society where everyone's eventually going to be living in smart cities. Everyone's going to be hooked up to the smart grid, which I won't say the word, the 5G, you know, that kind of stuff. And everyone's going to be, you know, like with this Bill Gates cryptocurrency jogging on treadmills.
They're even working on what do they call it? Ectogenesis, the wombs, artificial wombs.
Yeah.
And they're a lot further than what they're letting us know. And the ultimate goal for that is that women don't have to give birth anymore.
Yeah.
So that way they can control the population. They control the DNA that propagates itself. They can control everything.
Yeah.
They need more men in society. Okay.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah. It's like popping it in the microwave.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's all very sinister, as we know.
It's not natural. And
yeah.
It's
But the longer that we stay in this schism of men not being in their masculine and females not being in the feminine, the faster this agenda will roll out, because the dynamics are not right for protection and they're not right for nurturing, which is the male and the female aspect of humans. And so it's actually a much bigger topic and a much more serious topic than people give it credit for, which makes me wonder why it's not being spoken about as much as it should be, really.
Yeah, it's amazing to me too how we know so much about the human psyche and what contributes to a strong, stable human psyche, and everything in society goes against that. Like everything. And we know that the first 7 years of a person's life is formative in their personality, but Americans have 6 weeks with their kid and then it's off to daycare and they have to work full time and they got 1 week of holiday. Like there's something really off about that. And people just put up with it. They just put up with it, and they don't just work one job, they work 2 or 3. Right? And so in daycare, nobody really cares about your child. Like and that's where they're spending most of their life. Like they're not getting the energy or the nurturance that they need at all.
No.
And so then they turn to food, they turn to drugs, they turn to porn, they turn to everything else.
Yeah, and then as well, I was speaking about this to someone the other day, you know, the bullying that goes on at school. I was bullied myself, and it was a huge stuff that I've had to work through down the years. But, you know, kids are going to school and the bullies are basically just kids that have got toxic parents and parents that are dysfunctional. It's not really the child's fault, but of course they're projecting it out onto especially the more sensitive, empathic kids. And so, kids are going to school, they're being fed a pack of lies. History's a lie, science is a lie, you know, religion, all that stuff, and completely brainwashed. And now it's been ramped up with all this overt sexual education and transgenderism, and now even in the UK they're trying to pass legislation whereby you can refuse the poison dart as a parent, but if the kid goes to school, the kid can be convinced to have it and she could come back.
I read that the WHO is saying that there's a complicit it's a complicit agreement if your child is going to a public school that it can be vaccinated.
Yeah, you said the word.
What? But at the same time, you have to send your child to school.
Yeah, I know. And parents are being fined, and we just need to stop doing what we're doing. Like people say, what
can we do? We could just stop participating with them. It's like you don't, if you're not in agreement with my channel, are you going to watch it? If we're not in agreement with them, then we shouldn't be participating with them. We should just ignore them, turn around and walk away and focus on something else.
You wouldn't let your neighbor treat you the way they do. Right?
They only have the power we give them.
If your neighbor started trying to fine you, and you tell them to pee off. But we allow these people in dark suits that.
Yeah. And there's so, in Germany, the health minister of Germany is actually he learned, what do you call it? Bankkaufmann. He learned banking and economy. So how that fits into being the health minister, I'm not quite sure, because I'm sure there would have been many doctors and professors that would have filled that position quite nicely.
You've seen the state of some of these health ministers. I mean, God, it's a joke. Like overweight, like just bags under their eyes down to here. Like, and I mean, it's all an inversion.
He was criticized for buying a 4.5 million euro house during times in Germany when most people are going downhill right now, right? Businesses are closing, small businesses are done, basically. A lot of people are bankrupt already, but they're not going to see it until next year when taxes, fiscal year. And he's buying himself a $4.5 million house. And people are like, wait a minute. They don't care. He put in charges against some newspaper reporter who released the lease. Somehow he got his hands on the lease that he had signed and released it. He put in charges on him. He put charges on a YouTuber. He's suing everybody. Why? If it's the truth, you bought a house for $4.5 million during times where, as a public servant, you shouldn't have done that. And you can wait 3 or 4 years. If everybody else can wait however long they're expecting us to wait, then you certainly have to set that example, right?
Yeah.
And Bill Gates, oops, there goes my channel. But he wrote a blog article. He put a blog, and I know I'm jumping topics again, back to COVID topic.
Go where you need to go.
But it's like he wrote a blog article. His dad passed away, rest in peace, Gates Sr. Condolences to people. But the first line of his article was, "My dad passed away in the circle of family at home."
Oh yeah, I saw that.
I was so disgusted. He is so tone deaf.
Yeah.
It's not even funny.
Yeah.
It is not even funny. What about all those people that couldn't, with their own children, they had to leave their own children to pass away alone in hospitals.
Yeah.
That didn't have COVID. They didn't have COVID. There was no COVID on the ward. And the parents didn't have COVID, and the children had to pass alone by themselves.
I know.
Elderly people in hospices and in old age homes. And he has the balls to write on the first line, "My father passed away in the circle of family."
Yeah.
That is incredible.
I didn't think of it like that actually, but yeah, it's completely satanic, isn't it? What they're doing, making children die alone and stuff like that. It's horrific.
And people don't see it, that this is turning into literally a Hunger Games society, which is where we met in this group called Anti-Hunger Games.
Yeah.
But literally, it's turning into the society where the rich have all the rights.
Yeah.
And they make all the laws and all the rules. And everybody else is just fodder.
Yeah. That's what's going to happen if we don't stop complying and going along with it. Yeah.
So what do you think we should do, Tony, to wrap this up?
About what?
Each of us individually, like, how do I find my feminine? How do you find your masculine? How should we
first, it's awareness.
Yeah.
Like most men, you'll ask, they think they're in their masculine. Most females will think they're in their feminine. We because they don't really know what the true essence of that means. So they'll be like, yeah, but they're in this kind of like false kind of dynamic. So
like the princess mode.
It's not like I'm sitting here beating my chest going, I'm in my masculine, or I'm in my feminine. No, it's not like that. It's just like, let's understand that we were created a certain way, right? There's no doubt about it. It's just the way it is. And then we need to understand that there's certain expressions of that dynamic that I will have more of, that you will have more of, and I will have less of some and you will have less of some. Understanding what those dynamics are, and then thinking, am I embodying those? Am I in my masculine? Am I in my feminine? And just really, kind of self-analyzation of where we are individually. And for men, I think it's even more essential that we do that, because we're under the rule of tyranny, and we're needed so much right now. This is why I bang on about it all the time on my Facebook, and because I'm like, come on, guys, you know, we can do it. We can, you know, we just have to remember. Again, I speak about remembering that we're sovereign beings, and you know, authority is an illusion, and that humans in their true nature are amazing. We have to remember that, but then we also have to remember this part of us as well. And so it's understanding what that is and then embodying it, and going out for men, going out into the world, and the purpose, their mission, and doing what's right. And the same kind of thing for the females as well. So,
and you can help with that too, I think. With your energy.
Yeah, I just speak my truth, and so but yeah, there's no,
he can help.
there's no like ego there. It's just I want everyone to do what we need to do and become who we can be. And I see that they use this so much against us, the toxic femininity, the toxic masculinity, the division that it creates. You know, I can see it clearly, that it's so important that we recognize that it's being used against us, and we've got to stop hating on each other. And moving into a new understanding, or just an old understanding that we've come away from.
Okay, you guys, if you would like a session with Tony, the link is going to be in the description box below this video. Use this opportunity. He's offering special rates for viewers on my channel. And thank you.
Welcome. Thanks for having me on again.
Anytime. I love these discussions because it's just,
yeah, we went really deep today. It's really good. So,
just go there. And it's great. We're going to have, I think we'll have to like unpack this topic a little bit more.
You'll have to come on my YouTube channel.
Yes. I'll post his YouTube channel below too, so you can go, of course, check out his videos as well. Let me just check the chat before we close this off.
Yeah, it's only...
So let me see. In the UK, I saw them saying COVID is being pushed around by coins now. First wave was notes, now it's coins.
Yeah,
it's a joke.
Cashless society.
What Hitler was fighting for, we are going through again. Now that's a topic. We should do a video on that.
Oh, don't even get me started. You will get your YouTube channel taken down if we start going into what happened with the war.
That is a topic we need to dig into. Yes.
Yeah, look, I've not been getting a lot of notifications lately. We were just saying that off air.
Oh my gosh. Everyone is scared to say no. I don't patronize establishments that don't accept cash. That's how I'm fighting a cashless society, not participating. Absolutely. If everybody would just stop participating, it would be over in a week. It would be done.
Absolutely.
It would be over today. Easy. Just like go to the movies. Don't wear a mask. You know what? There was a video that was circulating on Andrew Cuomo, and he was saying that if 20,000 people decide to walk outside today, there's no way that they could monitor that. No country on this planet, nobody has the abilities to handle that. If 20,000 people get together and say we're not wearing masks or we're not doing it, then you're not wearing masks. They took that video down, but I got it. So. Yeah. Let's see. I literally got called a Karen the other day by this apparent spiritual person because I dared stand my ground and have an opinion. It's a joke. Yeah, it's gotten really... It's gotten a little bit too much. It's too much. Too much.
Well, everyone's triggered, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah. I have 3 beautiful sons, and I tell them to respect all women, but to stand their ground if they come across a shouty, angry woman. Speak calmly and truthfully, but if things don't feel right, to walk. Karen, yeah. I guess you got to do that. But yeah, it's such a topic. It's such a topic.
It's very triggering for people as well.
Yeah.
It's a very sensitive topic.
Yeah, it's tricky because both sides are doing something wrong, if you want to say, you know, like it's and looking for blame is not really the way that I want to go, you know. It's understanding.
Yeah, understanding is.
Yeah. Blame Alfred Kinsey. Yes, for the sexually confused society. Yes.
I need to look him up.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Oh my God. There's another video. Who was Alfred Kinsey and who did he really work for? Confusion and chaos is key for this crap to fly. That's what I see. Aggressive women doing what men won't. That's exactly it.
I agree.
We have to. It's like, who's going to pay our bills? Who's going to watch our kids? Who's going to protect us? You know, Buddha said that a family is, a woman is the walls of the house and a man is the roof of the house, right? But women are having to do it all. But some men are doing it all too. So I don't want to say it's just women, because I know a lot of men that are single parents as well. And it's tricky for everybody. But what the society is not doing, to which we all contribute to, is shift in a way that respects what we're going through now and the family structures that we're having now, to make it somehow better, to make it a better place, and not have daycare. Like, why can't we all work from home, for example? Why does it have to take a pandemic for people to realize, oh, you can work from home and still stay with your families? Like, but that's a whole other video. Not going to compensate for what men lack. I guess we're all going to be womanly then. Yes. They've feminized the men, so it'll be harder for anyone to stand up and fight back. It seems women are shouting more than men now. Women wear the trousers these days, it seems. The separation is unbearable. That's what I'm feeling too. Sarah Jane. It's gotten unbearable.
Yeah.
It's really gotten unbearable. It's like there's no, once you lose hope and you start losing hope and people are starting to lose hope, it's realm of
domestic
unbearableness.
violence is up through COVID. That's a very good point Margot makes.
Yeah. But thank you guys for watching. And if you have any questions whatsoever, still just type it in the comments below, right? And we'll try to answer them as best we can, or point you to different resources. But otherwise, I have to stop. I always pick my lip when I get nervous. But anyways, I have to stop. Anyways, thank you for watching. And so glad that, Tony, you're back with me.
Thanks for having me on.
We'll be back again
Thanks
in
for
a couple
listening,
weeks.
guys. Yeah.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.